A checkerboard cake is the most fun to cut into. The secret to success here is to make the checkerboard squares square. And in this tutorial, I'll show you how to do that along with every other step of the process. My very vanilla cake recipe is the perfect size for a checkerboard pattern, baked into 4 6-inch pans. For even layers, it's best to weigh the batter, or you can scoop the batter in and do the same number of scoops for each pan. I'm tinting half of the batter pink with a squirt of pink gel, but of course you can use any colour you like. Make sure you grease your pans so the cakes don't stick. The recipe is in the video description. Bake the layers and let them cool, and it's best to use cookie cutters for this, and the cookie cutters should be 2 inches apart. These are 4 and 2 inches, and the cake is 2 inches bigger, 6 inches. So you'll make 3 rings of cake that are 2, 4, and 6 inches wide. But first we need to make sure that the cakes are the right height by using a serrated knife. Use little sawing motions as you spin the cake to score a line around the cake to trim off the dome. And when you've gone all the way around the cake, slice through it, following along the line you scored. Look at this fun colour. I like to flip the cake over and do the same for the bottom, because the cake is darker where it touched the bottom of the cake pan, and by trimming the darker edge off, the cake slices will look neater when you cut them. For a neat checkerboard design, you want the distance between the cookie cutters to be the same as the height of the cake. So here, the cookie cutters are about 1 inch wide, which means the cake should be about 1 inch tall as well. Now it's time to use the cookie cutters. It's easiest to start with the outer ring, positioning it so there's the same amount of cake all around it, and then push that down and do the same with the next cookie cutter. Separate the rings of cake, and by alternating these with the rings of cake from the pink layers, that's what's going to create the checkerboard pattern. When you're choosing the flavours or colours for your checkerboard design, the more contrast, the better. You don't have to have a turntable for this next part, but it makes it a bit easier. You will need a cake board, which is at least 2 inches bigger than your cake. My cake is 6 inches and the cake board is 10 inches. Spread some buttercream across the cake board where the cake is going to sit, and then place one of the outer rings of cake on top, pressing it down to attach it to the buttercream. Now use the other colour of cake for the next ring, pushing it down, and then switch back to the first colour for the middle piece of cake. It will look like target rings at the moment. You can use any filling between the layers. I'm using my 4-minute buttercream as the filling as well as the frosting because it's delicious but also simple, just plain white. So it doesn't distract from the checkerboard pattern. As you position the outer ring of cake, you'll need to adjust it so that it sits directly on top of the cake below. Spin the cake to check it's straight and then alternate colours as you work your way in to the middle. As you're layering the cake, the key thing to focus on is to make sure the outer ring is centered, not sticking out on any side, which will mean the inner rings line up above the ones below and are centered as well. And also, it means the sides of your cake will be straight and not leaning to one side. If the filling is sticking out anywhere, smooth that now, and I always recommend chilling cakes in the fridge for 30 minutes or in the freezer for 15 minutes to set the buttercream between the layers and the buttercream you spread onto the cake board below the cake so that it's firm and attaches the cake securely in place so it doesn't wobble or slide around as you frost it. It's best to do a crumb coat as a first layer of frosting, which is just a thin layer to trap any crumbs that come off the cake, and then let that sit in the fridge for another 15 to 30 minutes before spreading a final layer of frosting on top. I'm using shades of pink to make ombre. Use a cake comb to smooth the frosting and add any decorations you like, and this will be such a fun cake to cut into. This tall 6-inch cake will serve 12 to 20 people, depending on how you slice it. Look at this gorgeous checkerboard pattern. The recipe is on BritishGirlBakes.com, and you'll also find my cake school there, with courses and memberships to take your cake decorating skills to the next level. See you there!